Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream today. So today we are looking at top 2025 trends for brands and marketing that you need to know about. So I want to make one thing clear to start with, actually. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of work with Activate AI and AI in marketing and branding recently. Despite that, using AI for your marketing to enhance your marketing is not one of the 2025 trends. That was a 2024 trend. We've been doing courses about it for the last, I've been doing free public talks about it for the last 3 months. If you're not using AI tools already for your brands and marketing, you really need to get on board with that immediately, because that's not something that's coming. That's something that's already here. Now, if you don't know who I am and you're watching this, my name is Dan Thomas. I'm a brand and marketing specialist who works primarily with Web3 and tech companies due to my developer and technical architecture background. So I've scheduled this for 45 minutes. So if you're watching this while having lunch, thank you for joining me. I'm going to try and keep it under that because, we're all busy people and there's a lot to do out there. But today we're going to cover 6 particular trends that 2025 might well be affecting you. You might well need to be aware of. So just to run through what the 6 are initially, and then for each one, I'll give you a breakdown of what the trend is, why it matters, and particularly what you can do about it or start doing about it to get on board and ensure that you don't have problems because of it. So the 6 trends are speed. That's just the speed of everything, to be honest. Adaptive branding, AI consumption and AI-driven consumption, micro video, personal augmented reality, and then the last one, which is particularly if you're on the Isle of Man, is a really key one, biosphere and ethics. So we're going to blast through these really quickly, and hopefully you can get on board and get some use out of them before next year starts. So first one is speed. Now, this is the speed of change, the speed of adaptation to trends, the speed of getting your content out, the speed of responding to your audiences, the speed of competitors gaining market share even. Everything is just going to start moving much, much faster, and your windows of opportunities will shrink. So if we look at things like new trends when they arrive, in the case of certain TikTok trends, they get very massive very quickly and then disappear again. The demure and mindful trend was a key example of this. Born, lived, and died within 2-3 weeks. So if you're going to be looking to get involved in those trends, you need to do it. You need to get in them quickly. Now, I say we're already seeing this increase in speed due to the TikTokification of social media, and TikTok's really helped drive this. And the idea that you have to get content out very quickly and you have to be engaging your audience much faster than you used to be. To be blunt, people aren't willing to spend the time in something that doesn't immediately appeal to them, whether that's video content, audio content, or something they're reading. So whereas previously you've been able to do maybe a couple of social media posts a week, maybe a blog post once every couple of weeks, your content creation rate now has to be much faster, has to be much higher. And in my recent talks, I spoke about using long form podcast videos or long form video, and then really leveraging that to create high volumes of shorter social media content. So why do you need to know this? And why do you need to be adapting to this? It's because, to be honest, you either keep up or you will get lost in the noise and overtaken. No one's going to see your messaging and everyone will forget about you. If your competitors are doing 20 social media posts a week and you're doing 1, they're just going to keep being more present in the audience's mind and in your potential clients' minds. So how do you deal with this? Because it's not easy and it's one of the most challenging ones to get right. I'll be clear about that. What a lot of people do is they use AI tools. They slap in an AI tool and then, Chat GPT, write me an article about whatever. It very quickly pumps it out. But the problem is your quality drops off quite considerably when you attack speed on its own basis. So the main thing you need to remember is you cannot sacrifice your quality for speed. Yet maybe your competitor's getting 20 posts out a week and you're only doing 1. But you need to find a way to increase that without making those posts lower quality. So the way to do that is you look at your skill sets and your processes first, and you really refine those down. So that might be process for getting things signed off, process for creating copywriting content and marketing content, all these sort of things. You need to understand your processes, refine those down. And once you've got that, then you start to add in the additional higher end tools. So maybe your research side takes too long, or is too time, it's too time consuming. People don't enjoy doing it, or a particular aspect of creating graphics. Maybe there's too long between the person giving an idea to the graphic designer and them coming back, and that back and forth between them as they refine the concept before doing the final design. Regardless, that's the point at which you add your AI tools or additional tools in, but you can't do that without your process and your skill set in place first. And that's why I produce quite a lot of content while still working with clients. I produce all the content for Architect, and that's how I do it, because I have very clear processes and I know the skill set I need to do these things, and then I can start to slot in those other tools. So that's your first one, speed, very critical, and it's going to be a major one in the next 12 months. Next is adaptive branding. Now, for a lot of bigger companies, a lot of established companies, this is going to be hard to do. So what it is branding without the strict rules and the huge sets of brand guidelines that go around it, that can more easily be adapted to whatever the trend is, or the platform, or even the people you're requesting to do your content for you and your marketing for you. So why this is going to become a trend and why it's going to become more critical, and we are starting to see it already again on certain platforms, but people aren't going to sit and watch your content the same way. They're not going to sit and watch hour-long videos where you can constantly reinforce your own brand. Instead, they're going to be seeing flashes of your branding throughout their social. So if they're scrolling on TikTok, they're scrolling on Instagram, they're skimming through LinkedIn, they're going to see quick flashes of your brand. And these sort of micro flashes are how people are going to see it, what they're going to remember, and you have to build a brand that fits that. So, and that's going to be amid a fire hose of noise from your competitors, from random things, from all these other content that gets created online now. You're going to have to find a way that in 1 or 2 seconds, you can create a memorable brand to do it. Now, the reason older branding models don't work for this, and if you've worked with any large-scale company, you've probably seen the traditional brand books. We had one done for a client a while ago. Very, very good brand book, very good designer, very high quality, brilliant brand book. Completely unsuitable to this model because it had pages of how exactly you put the logo and what the backgrounds have to be, what colors are allowed near it, what fonts have to be there, what styles it's in, the context you're allowed to use it, and all this information, which used to work, but now, particularly for social media marketing, just fails badly. Now, with this as well, obviously, you're going to be working across multiple platforms, multiple agencies, possibly as you start to bring in specialists if you're a bigger company or a wider service. And you have to be able to quickly give them solutions to say, this is how you use the whole branding, which they can quickly plug into what they need to use. So how do you do this? I do a lot of work around this with various clients, but in essence, your branding has to be consistent but subtle, because strong corporate branding in the sort of entertainment-driven social media world and online digital environment we're in now is a turn-off. People don't like it. Now, if you look at, there's a company called ClickUp. I don't know if you've never seen their software. They do project management software. Not very exciting, but they do really well on ClickUp because they have this very subtle branding. They have the consistent brand messaging around the sort of companies they work with, and they do very entertaining videos. But until you've watched a few of the videos, you probably won't even realize who it is. And it's that very subtle branding that blends in well natively, and that's what you've got to work with. So get a strong brand core message, which you can use again and again. You can adapt a bit, but fits around. I mean, that might be things like a key phrase, your logo, a tagline, particular styles of language you use, even color combinations. It's all that sort of thing that builds a more subtle overall branding. But in essence, you want to become a one-trick pony for your branding message and then work that trick into every show you do. It's about that consistency. And that's why the chameleon's on here, that sort of adapting to fit into whatever you're looking at and wherever people are seeing you. So the next one is AI consumption. Now, by this, I mean that it's not, this isn't about us as marketers using AI tools. This is about consumers using AI tools to make their lives easier. And it kind of, I summarized it, well, I wrote the phrase a while ago that it can be summed up with the phrase, summarize this. People don't need to read 20-page long sales letters anymore, long form landing pages, or even watch long videos. They can take those, they can put them into AI tools, and that tool can then give them the summary. Now, Apple Intelligence, which is starting to roll out into iPhones at the minute, is going to be a key example of this. It's not brilliant at the minute, but as it starts to learn the sort of gets more data and learn the particular user's preference, it will improve, it will get better around that. So the focus is going to shift from users going out, looking online, looking on websites, browsing social media to find out information about your product and services. And instead, it will move to them asking their AI tools to do it for them. So why this matters is users just won't have to engage with your marketing. Great, you wrote a long form sales letter detailing all the technical stuff about your product, all the benefits, the ideal future, and all these things in your carefully crafted language. The AI tools will let the user bypass that. And when they won't need to watch it, you're going to have a much harder time engaging with that user directly. So you're going to have to engage both the user and their AI tool. Now, this can potentially break marketing as we know it. It really does. It's one of the key things. I added it into my talks for the last 4 or 5 weeks of it. But it is a major aspect of something you do need to be aware of. I'll give the example. A while back, it was my mum's birthday. She wanted a photo of kids in a nice frame. So I found my photo on my phone. I got it printed out. I went and bought a frame, put them together, posted to her, sent her a card. Now, with an advanced enough AI tool on my phone, I wouldn't have needed to do that. The AI tool would have known it was a birthday, would have known from our conversations what she wanted, could have looked through my photos and know the criteria for what makes a good photo and who the people are. So it could have identified one of the photos, sent it to be printed, purchased a photo frame at that point, even ordered a card online and had it all sent. Now, excuse me, there is Stripe recently released their API access into large language models. So they can now do payments direct in these. And sure, initially it will be, you'll get checkoffs at each point, but at some point it will become that you just get a notification. It's sent your mum a present. It's her birthday today, we've sent this present for her. And as marketers, you need to be aware of that and start to adapt your messaging and your branding and your general strategy around it. So the core to that is consistency across all the platforms you're in. I know a lot of companies have a website that's one style, and a personal page that's another, and a company page that's another, and different branding across all their social. You have to standardize those. And importantly, you can't rely on places that don't have AI access. So again, the Isle of Man is notorious for people just having Facebook pages. I've been told by a lot of people, oh, I don't need a website, I don't need LinkedIn, I don't need Instagram or TikTok, I've got a Facebook page. If general AI models can't read your information, then you do not exist to them. So if you've only got a Facebook page and someone goes onto ChatGPT or one of the other models and says, I need this in the Isle of Man, as far as it's concerned, you don't exist. It won't show it to people. And the same when these things start to do automation, the AI agents kick in with the automation side, they'll just ignore you. So major one that's going to become very important in the next 12 months. Now, next one is micro video content. And you'll see a lot of these are linked. There's a lot of crossover between them. But this is videos which are much shorter than we used to. So we've gone from long form YouTube videos down to shorter form social media videos. So TikTok is up to 3 minutes, for example. YouTube Shorts are a minute. We're going to start getting shorter and shorter on that because, again, if you look at the way people use TikTok and the way they use social, it is a scrolling method where they skim through, they watch a few seconds, they're there for entertainment and a bit of a distraction. So the old days of the cooking videos are the ones, and the cooking tutorials are the ones that always get me, where you go, how do I boil an egg? And it takes you to a page that starts off with, when I was a young man growing up, blah, blah, blah. And it spends ages to get to the point. Micro videos shifting that. And the reason you need to know this is because if you're doing longer videos, it would be much harder to engage people. But if you've got 20 10-second videos, you can maybe have them all go out and maybe people watch longer, maybe they don't, but you get those repeat micro engagement points with the audience. And that's really key. So yeah, people have shorter attention spans online. Their viewing patterns are also changing. And again, I know I talk about TikTok a lot, but TikTok has a really, really impressive model when, if you compare it to Instagram, for example. So Instagram, you scroll and it just scrolls until you stop it. With TikTok, when you scroll, it will lock to the next video and autoplay it. And then you have to scroll away. So micro video is about getting the attention in the time it takes them to flick past. So how do you do it? First thing is, a lot of people need to get used to being on camera. I personally used to hate it. I'm still not a huge fan of it, but you have to accept the fact that particularly the first video you do is going to be pretty bad. The second video you do is probably going to be harder to do because you've just watched the first video you did and you know how bad it was. But it does get better. It does get easier. And as you start to engage the audience and you start to put content out, the more you can put out, the more rapidly you can identify what's engaging with them and what's worth doing repeatedly. Gary Vayner is a great one for this, for example. They put out a huge volume of video content, lots and lots of short videos. They will then take those and they will look at which ones engage natively well, and they will promote those rather than a lot of companies will say, we'll do the videos over here or the content on one side and we do the adverts separately. They just say, well, actually, we'll take the content we know works and we will promote that to a wider audience because it's already there. It's already getting the brand in front of people and it will engage better. So there's a lot of AI tools to help you with this. Opus Clip is one I've talked about repeatedly. But if you can get long videos made, you can always crop them down or just sit with a camera phone. I mean, I literally use my Samsung phone and I will do quick videos with that. The quality is good enough and it gets things out and you can start to build those engagements. And particularly you need to focus on the thumbnail that's showing on the video and the opening 2 seconds. Now, one more quick hack for these is that a key skill with them is to, or a key metric of how the social platforms will show them people is how many people rewatch it. So you'll see a lot at the minute are doing looping videos where it starts off with want to build a brand and then the video ends with the person saying, so do you? And what they've done is they've cropped a single segment in half and put the first bit at the end. So when you're watching it, it seamlessly loops back to the start. You know, it's a simple hack, but a lot of people are doing it and it does help with that, bumping up those metrics. Now, next one is personal augmented reality, mixed reality. This is an outside one. I'm not 100% sure we'll see it go mainstream in 2025, but a lot of the factors are building towards, and a lot of the factors are meaning we're getting the tech stacks in place, which is largely what's been holding it back, to be able to make these more mainstream. So these are not a great picture because it's a guy in a massive VR headset, but the AR glasses that you can wear, which have information or show you information as you're walking around, the headsets that talk to you as you go about. Now, we've already seen augmented reality for marketing purposes and sales purposes in certain shops. Fashion brands do it primarily at the minute. And you can walk into a shop, they say, they'll show you the premium pair of shoes, and you can stand in front of an AR mirror and it will overlay the shoes so it looks like you're wearing them. You can get a feel for what things look like or outfits much more quickly and easily. Now, augmented reality headsets, obviously at the minute, are very big, very heavy. They are getting a lot smaller. And once they get smaller and we can start to wear them all the time, they will become like mobile phones. And I know for a lot of you, mobile phones are seen as something we've always had, but for some of us who are a bit older, that's still quite an unusual thing, the idea that you have a phone with you everywhere. And augmented reality kits will be like that. So when it gets to the out and about stage, environments and advertising will be much more interactive and personalized, but also blockable. So that's something you need to think about, is how can we personalize our adverts to the individual based on whatever information we have about them. When you combine this with AI, the ability for the AR kit to look at things like clothing or products, and the AI tool to be able to give you a quick summary based on the visual images is very powerful. It's also worth noting that Niantic, who are the company behind Ingress and Pokemon Go, they've been running events, public AR events, for a decade now on public AR software, but they're now taking that training data of the environmental training data and using that for new things. So these tech is going to have a lot more awareness of the world around you, much more understanding of what that world looks like and how it operates. So how do you get yourself ready for this in terms of your marketing? Until these things go mainstream and you can actually get your hands on them, it's a very odd experience trying to develop marketing brand and branding tools for them. I've used VR quite extensively in the past with certain clients, and it's very unique. So if you haven't got AR and VR kit yourself, I would recommend getting some. If it's a company, get one VR kit for the company so you can test these things out and get a feel for how people look. There's also already AR stuff out there. You can be doing QR codes that automatically trigger certain activities on your phone or turn animations on or play videos, that side of thing. But in particular, look at how your marketing can become more cross-media friendly. So that's look at things like audio, because that's going to be a key aspect of this. Look at how you can feed into these these AI models that are going to be used with VR and AR, and just think a bit more outside the box with them. Again, not an easy one to plan for because the tech isn't here yet, but it does feel like we are very close to this. So last one, and this is kind of a major one if you're on the Isle of Man. I really think this is going to be a key trend for 2025, and not just on the Isle of Man, but globally in a related way. So this picture's from the Biosphere and Tech panel at Digital Isle 2024 the other week. And it's because ethics globally is going to become a bigger talking point. I'm going to try and talk about this without letting my personal political views and opinions come into it at all. But ethics is going to become a major brand talking point for you and possibly a key factor for you. So if we look at US, Donald Trump is now going to be president again. That's going to change the US's stance on the environment, on environmental protections. Now that's going to lead to a few things. There are going to be people who are for that approach, whatever it is he promotes, and people who are against it. Now, social media often tends to be more left-leaning. X has been deliberately altered, so it's not as much anymore, but other ones are, Blue Sky particularly. So when these sort of things happen, it gives you a chance to be part of that conversation as a brand. Now, related to this, on the Isle of Man, Jason, who you can see in that photo, Jason Bizzle, he's just been elected as chairman for Biosphere IOM. I know Jason, he's a very smart guy, very good guy at what he does, and he's very driven. So I suspect we are going to see a lot more around the biosphere. Well, in fact, I know we are, because I know he's pushing for it, and its importance for the Isle of Man as the only UNESCO whole biosphere nation. So there is going to be a push for Isle of Man businesses around how they fit into that model. So it is particularly important that you get your head around this and you are aware of how the biosphere and other ethical concerns could affect your business. So as these become a more major talking point, both on the island and globally, so in terms of Donald Trump being US president, that is going to have a global impact. And there are a lot of ethical discussions to be had around that, he said carefully. So as consumers, people are going to be thinking about these things more. They're going to be looking at your company more and thinking, what is the brand of this company about? What are their ethical approaches? Do they align with what I want, or do they not? Now, if you don't have an ethical framework in place, or you don't have a biosphere framework in place over here, it doesn't stop people wanting to work with you, but it creates a hurdle. It creates a distraction from your core messaging. So what is it you need to do about this, and how do you get ready for it? Well, in terms of the biosphere IOM over here, there's a chance for Manx companies and Isle of Man companies to create a genuine USP around their product and services relating to this. It's one of the few times I've seen recently a really genuine, unique option here, that the Isle of Man is the only UNESCO whole nation biosphere. It's completely unique globally. If you can find a way to work with it or work around it, that becomes your USP. Now, in the wider sort of world, and we look at more ethical side of things, how you as an individual and business draw your ethical line becomes kind of key. So it can't be anymore that it's a token effort, or it's something you've written down but don't really adhere to. And we've seen lots of companies do it. They have the ethical frameworks, they promote all the ethics, and then they go and do something else. We're all online. Everything's fully digital. People will find out about it. And particularly now, emotions are going to be higher around it. People are going to be looking for these things. So if you say one thing but do something else, it is going to create problems for you. Now, there's no denying it. It's going to be a tricky one to balance. If you are a global brand and you are looking at a wide demographic, you might find that ethically you have people that cover a broad spectrum. But if you are a startup, or even if you're looking to break into a new market, understanding the ethical concerns of that market and matching them with your actual behaviors, not just what you say, but actually behaving in a way that ethically matches them, can be a key to break into that market. And it doesn't matter what side of the various political spectrums you're on, there are always potential users in those spectrums, and being able to talk to those and engage in the way they want is key. The risk is, though, well, it's not really a risk, it's something you have to accept, that the more you move towards one direction and certain people like you, the more other people won't. And it doesn't matter which way you swing on it. If you sit in the middle, everyone will hate you. If you sit either side, well, they'll either hate you or they won't care. If you sit either side, some people will really like you, but some are going to hate you. And that's kind of the side effect of marketing. And just to say again, biosphere, if you're on the Isle of Man, you really need to be paying attention to it. I cannot emphasize how important biosphere is going to be for Manx companies over the next 12, 24 months. And it's a really, really strong potential offering and a really strong USP. And knowing Jason, I think this is going to be huge. And there's some great people, as you can see on the panel, there's some great people on there. But, it's hard to underestimate how powerful that one could be. So that is your 6 trends for the next 12 months, which is covered. As I say, AI content creation, AI for enhancing your marketing isn't there because that's already happened. That's already well bedded in. Companies around the world are using it. What we're looking at now is really refining your marketing down. How do you adapt to change well? How flexible are you? How do you deal with changing user consumption habits and their goals for being online? And yeah, it's not going to be easy because it never is. Despite everyone thinking marketing is the easy job, trying to engage the right audience is going to get much harder. Trying to just get in front of them is going to get harder. But hopefully you found this useful. As always, if you need anything, feel free to drop me a DM on LinkedIn